We want to get to one of our main breaking stories of the day today. You're taking a look at the photo of a man who police say escaped from prison yesterday and is still on the run. Now a very big manhunt is underway. His name is Danilo Cavallante. He's 34 years old. He was able to get past guards at Chester County Prison just before 9 a.m. yesterday morning. He's being described as 5 feet tall, 120 pounds, with brown eyes and black hair, and he was last seen wearing a white t-shirt and gray shorts. Now, this is a very dangerous individual. He was recently convicted of first-degree murder and the stabbing death of his former girlfriend. Authorities say even more gruesome in this crime is that he did this in front of her 2 young children back in April of 2021. Now, he was sentenced to life in prison for his former girlfriend's murder last week, and authorities say he's also wanted for a 2017 murder in Brazil. So a very dangerous individual who's on the run right now. This has impacted people who live in the area as well as students who go to Westchester University, also very close by. Joining us right now, though, is Andrew Smith, who is a student there himself. Andrew, thanks so much for joining us here. Obviously, we can see that you're in your dorm right now, a very scary situation for you. Tell us a little bit about how school officials have handled this and how you found out the news.
So we found out not till later in the afternoon. We found out about like 2 o'clock, which was a little concerning when you find out that he escaped to eat, because we're only about 6.5 miles from the campus. So that was a little scary to think about. And then they didn't really cancel classes or anything. They've kind of restricted residents' housing. You can't have guests or anything. So, and then you definitely noticed like an increased presence in the police. They're definitely around more active.
Sure. So what was your first reaction when you heard that there was an escaped prisoner on the run, not to mention that this is a convicted murderer?
It's kind of a surreal moment. You don't really believe it at first, and especially looking into it, because he doesn't like seem like someone who comes off as much as a threat, especially when you're given like that he's only 5 foot, 120. You can see like the students are definitely kind of mixed about it. Some are taking it as a joke, like they're not really too scared of him. But then when you look at his like history and the crime he committed, it's definitely a scary feeling.
So give us a sense of where your university is, how close it is to the prison, and have you ever felt unsafe being at school there?
We're about 6 miles from it, and so I wouldn't be too concerned, except for the fact there's been apparently a couple sightings of him within the actual county. So that's a little scary. And then this is, I would say, the first time I've ever felt not necessarily unsafe, but definitely on edge, because you know that the police and the college are working together to try to keep everyone safe. But it's also just the thought of you don't know where he is, where he's at. So there's always that concern.
Sure. And so since then, classes have been canceled, at least for today, right? Tell us a little bit more about how the school has taken this situation into their own hands.
So yesterday, classes were going as normal. I had a night class, and you definitely noticed, like, I was going to class, and there's cops kind of speeding around. You could hear the sirens. And then today, I wasn't in class, but you get the text saying that classes are canceled. And I had some friends that were in class, and they were saying it's kind of a scary moment because everyone's getting, like, kicked out of the buildings, getting sent home. So it's, like, a little scary because you don't know exactly what's going on. It's not something that's ever really happened before.
Yeah, and I was going to ask about just the energy on campus. If you went to class yesterday evening, how were students reacting to this news? Could you notice that people were maybe more scared than usual or talking about this more?
Definitely a lot of talk about it. Like I was saying earlier, there's definitely mixed reactions. People are taking it not necessarily as a joke, but kind of trying to lighten the mood about it. But people definitely are more scared, especially when you get the text saying like everyone's got to go back to their dorms, keep the doors locked. You could tell everyone was a little put off by it, definitely a little scared.
Sure, and I'm sure that, family and friends, those close to you and other students there are definitely concerned, especially if they're from, far away.
Yeah, everyone I know has been texting. They're trying to make sure that like you're taking the right precautions. Obviously, locking your door if you go out, have either someone with you or like mace or something to kind of just protect yourself on the off chance you do see them.
Sure, and of course, the goal here is that they're going to find this individual as soon as possible. But in the case that they don't, say this leads into Monday on Labor Day, how do you think the school is going to handle that? Do you foresee classes also getting canceled potentially into next week?
I would hope so. I mean, with the capabilities of Zoom and the ease of going online, I feel like the precaution, we should just take it because I'd rather be at home locked behind a door than having to go to campus where you could easily blend in with the huge crowds.
Yeah, understandably so. And also, I guess, Andrew, I want to ask you about this too. It's the weekend, it's a holiday weekend. You know, people have plans. So, how do you plan to go about your weekend, if at all, differently when it comes to, running errands, seeing friends, getting groceries, whatever it may be?
I myself am not really doing too much this weekend. If I do run out, we're not going to do anything for too long, kind of try to come back as soon as you can. I've noticed like you can see people on campus that it feels like they're not really taking it as serious. There's still like large crowds going around and like still doing the normal activities. So it'll be interesting to see how the school kind of handles that, if they could try to crack down on that at all.
Well, and when you and I talked earlier too, Andrew, I think you mentioned about your key cards, that those are being used a lot more in certain areas. You're also not allowed to bring any guests inside, right?
Yeah, so if you're trying to get into any normal building, usually you can just walk in. Now they're making it required. You have to have your RAM ID with you. You have to show that when you go in. And then all the dorms, all the buildings, they're restricting it to one entryway. So you have to go through that one entryway. They're like making sure that everyone has their IDs. And then they're not allowing anyone to have guests. I mean, well, you can have guests. You just got to sign them in, show an ID. And they're just not letting that happen, understandably.
Yeah, sure. Well, this is definitely something to be taken very seriously here, and hopefully they will be able to locate this individual as soon as possible. Andrew, thank you so much for joining us here. Stay safe as you continue to follow this news as well. We really appreciate you coming on today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, let's take